Sir, hey, is that my... Is that Baron? Is that Baron? You can't do that. Get up, sir. Get up. You can't be here. You can't be here.
Okay.
Just shoot the little fucking shit!
No! Please!
The movie starts with a boy named Philip who sees a train coming from a distance through a dense jungle. He immediately runs and warns his friends Ethan and Baron, who are sitting far away on the railway track, about the approaching train and tells them to move away immediately. After hearing him, Ethan quickly starts untying his unconscious friend Baron, who is tied to the tracks. However, he is unable to free him in time, and the train passes over him. On the other hand, Baron's father Caleb, unaware of what has happened to the children, is inspecting a construction site for work. There, he finds out that a contractor is secretly buying raw materials from another supplier instead of his company because Caleb's boss Benji is charging higher rates. During the argument, the contractor even tries to bribe Caleb and explains that he only wants to do good business to support his family. Caleb then goes to his boss Benji, who is also his uncle and a retired military officer. After hearing everything, Benji tells Caleb to go back with 2 of his men and deal with the contractor properly. Caleb tells him that he had planned to spend time with his son today and is already running late. But Benji still forces him to return to the site. Because of this, Caleb is unable to reach his ex-wife Jackie's house on time to pick up his son Baron. Jackie initially thinks that Baron might be with his father, but when she finds out that Caleb did not pick him up because of work, she becomes angry with him.
Where the fuck is Baron?
Soon, she realizes that Baron has not returned from school. Meanwhile, the police find Baron's body on the railway tracks. Detective Wilson and Detective Navarro arrive at the scene and get all the information about the incident from Officer Parker. As soon as Caleb receives the news, he becomes terrified and rushes there. He calls out to his son and runs toward the railway track, where he sees his son's body covered with a white sheet. He also notices Baron's shoes lying nearby. Caleb breaks down, but his heart is not ready to accept the truth. The police try to calm him down and take him to the station. Even then, he refuses to believe that Baron is dead. During questioning, Baron's mother tells Detective Navarro that she was very happy when she dropped Baron off at school that morning because he was supposed to spend time with Caleb later that day. But Caleb got stuck at work and never arrived to pick him up. Jackie starts crying when she sees Baron's clothes that were found at the scene. In anger and grief, she begins shouting at Caleb.
You couldn't be there! Where the fuck were you? What the fuck were you doing?
Eventually, she calms down enough to continue. Meanwhile, Detective Navarro shows Caleb photographs of the boys who got off at the last bus stop with Baron. Caleb does not recognize them. However, as soon as he leaves the interrogation room, he sees one of those boys, Ethan, sitting in the corridor. Caleb approaches him and asks, "Do you know anything about what happened to Baron?" Ethan says nothing. But when the police take Caleb away, Ethan sticks out his tongue and mocks him. Caleb finds this behavior very strange, but he cannot properly explain it to Detective Navarro. Before sending him home, Detective Navarro gives Caleb his phone number and address and asks him to contact him if he remembers anything important. The next day, Baron's funeral reception is held at Benji's house. Caleb tells Benji that he wants to know everything the police know. Benji tells him that it is not the right time yet, calms him down, and promises that whoever did this will eventually be found. For now, Benji advises Caleb to stay with Jackie. However, Jackie is still angry and continues blaming Caleb for Baron's death. Meanwhile, Ethan's father Lyle, who is expected to become a state senator soon, arrives at the police station and tries to pressure the police chief into labeling the case as a suicide based on his influence and the statements of the children. Detective Navarro does not like this. Later, he attends Baron's funeral. Benji tries to stop him from questioning Caleb, but Detective Navarro still manages to ask whether Baron had been upset about anything recently. Caleb tells him that Baron was a happy boy. Soon afterward, a television report announces that the police have officially declared Baron's death a suicide. Hearing this, Caleb becomes furious and starts shouting, "My son could never commit suicide." Benji once again tries to calm him down.
That is enough! Turn around! Look at me! Look!
The next day, Senator Lyle attends a community event. There, it is revealed that Ethan is not his biological son. In fact, he adopted Ethan when he was 6 years old. However, Ethan does not listen to him and often misbehaves with others. Caleb also arrives there and tries to speak with Ethan. But Lyle immediately calls security and has Caleb removed from the event. Determined to find answers, Caleb goes to the house of another boy from the photographs. He secretly enters the house and starts looking for evidence inside Philip's room. Fortunately, he discovers a drawing made by Philip. In the drawing, Baron is shown dead on the railway tracks. Philip is crying, and Ethan has devil horns drawn on his head. Seeing this, Caleb immediately goes to Benji and tells him that Ethan knows what happened to Baron. He tells him that Lyle's son Ethan knows what happened to Baron. However, Benji explains that Ethan is the son of a future state senator, and confronting him directly could be dangerous. Benji promises that he will get the police tapes containing the children's statements as soon as possible. But Caleb decides that if Benji does not help him, he will find the truth himself. The next day, he goes to Ethan's school and confronts him in the hallway. Caleb asks, "Did you do something to my son?" Ethan replies, "I can tell you his last words. He said that he would rather die than spend another second with his father before getting hit by a train." Hearing this, Caleb loses control and starts shouting at Ethan. Ethan immediately begins crying and runs away. Caleb runs after him, but during the chase, Ethan is struck by a car and falls unconscious on the road. Fearing the consequences, Caleb puts Ethan into his van and drives away. He kidnaps him and takes him to his lake house, known as Baron's Cove. Caleb locks Ethan inside a cabin near the lake and tries to force him to explain the drawing Philip made and tell the truth about Baron. However, Ethan continues joking and says, "It's just a stick figure. Do I look like a stick figure to you?" He again insists that Baron committed suicide. Caleb becomes angry at this response and leaves him locked inside the cabin. Meanwhile, Ethan's father announces through a press conference that his son has been kidnapped. In anger, he offers a reward of $100,000 for information leading to Caleb.
Additionally, I would like to announce a $100,000 cash reward for anyone with information.
At the same time, the police chief and Detective Navarro are assigned to find Ethan as quickly as possible. Later, Caleb brings food to Ethan and says, "If you think I care about you, you're wrong. I know you're not an innocent child. You're a monster." Ethan responds by saying, "Baron was telling the truth. He hated you so much that he eventually started hating himself." Hearing this, Caleb becomes furious. Wanting to scare Ethan into telling the truth, he goes to visit his close friend Felix. Felix has no idea about Baron's death or Ethan's kidnapping. Using an excuse, Caleb takes several large tools from Felix's garage. At the same time, Benji becomes angry after hearing about Ethan's kidnapping and sends his men to search for Caleb. Caleb returns to the lake house and brings Ethan from the cabin into the main house. He ties him to a pole and starts a small blowtorch, using it to threaten him. Caleb demands, "Tell me what happened to Baron." Without showing any fear, Ethan replies, "Do whatever you want." But Caleb cannot bring himself to go any further. Instead, he breaks down and starts crying.
Just tell me! I'll take you back!
He begs Ethan to tell him the truth and promises that he will let him go home if he does. Then Ethan begins crying too and says something unexpected. "I don't want to go home." Caleb is shocked by the answer. At the same time, two of Benji's men arrive outside the lake house. When they see Caleb's van parked outside, they realize he is inside. Meanwhile, Caleb calms down and begins talking to Ethan. He tells him that he and Baron were building this place together. Baron wanted to turn one of the rooms into a giant aquarium filled with every kind of fish. Caleb explains, "Baron wanted this room to be special. He loved the water. I used to be afraid of swimming, but now I feel like I have to go deep into the ocean just to bring my son back." Hearing this, Ethan starts crying. Finally, he admits that he tried to save Baron. However, he refuses to reveal anything else. He tells Caleb, "I can't tell you more than that. If I do, my father Lyle will kill me." At that same moment, Lyle is speaking privately with Benji on the phone while sitting on his boat. Soon, Lyle's father, who is the governor, joins him. During their conversation, it becomes clear that adopting Ethan was actually his father's idea. The adoption was mainly done to improve Lyle's public image. In reality, Lyle does not even care about Ethan. After hearing Ethan's fears and seeing his condition, Caleb begins to feel sympathy for him. He unties Ethan's hands and gives him some of Baron's clothes to wear. As Ethan changes clothes, Caleb notices large bruises covering his body. Seeing these injuries makes Caleb feel even more sorry for him. He tells Ethan to sleep on the bed. Ethan falls asleep while looking through photographs from Baron's album. Caleb eventually falls asleep in a chair nearby. However, a short time later, Lyle's hired men secretly enter the house. Seeing Caleb asleep, they begin leaking gas throughout the building and prepare an explosive trap. Caleb senses that someone is inside the house, but pretends to remain asleep. When one of the men enters Ethan's room and attempts to take him away, Caleb suddenly attacks him and stops him. Moments later, a firefight breaks out. Caleb manages to protect both himself and Ethan from the attackers and escapes the house by boat. However, one of the bullets strikes Ethan. At the same moment, the entire lake house explodes behind them. Watching the place he built with Baron being destroyed breaks Caleb's heart. Even so, he somehow manages to escape across the lake with the injured Ethan. On the other side of the lake, Caleb realizes that the attackers were trying to kill Ethan as well. Ethan then says, "I knew this would happen. Lyle did all of this." After saying that, he loses consciousness. The next morning, Lyle secretly meets Benji at a cafe. Benji tells him that both Caleb and Ethan survived. Hearing this, Lyle becomes furious. Their conversation reveals that Benji had made a deal with Lyle. He had promised to deliver both Caleb and Ethan to him, dead or alive. In return, Lyle would help Benji secure government construction contracts. Even after the failed attack, Benji assures Lyle that he will finish the job. Meanwhile, Caleb carries the injured Ethan all night until he reaches his friend Felix's house. By now, Felix knows everything. He immediately starts treating Ethan's injuries. Exhausted from everything that has happened, Caleb falls asleep on a stool nearby. After some time, Felix successfully saves Ethan's life, bringing Caleb a sense of relief. While treating Ethan, Felix notices bruises all over his body. Ethan also tells him that Caleb is trying to protect him. Hearing this, Felix tells Caleb that he is doing the right thing. He then gives Caleb the keys to his car so that they can leave safely if needed. Later, Caleb asks Ethan, "Why did your father do this to you?" Ethan replies that Lyle is not his real father. This surprises Caleb. Ethan then shows him a photograph from Baron's album. In the picture, Baron and Caleb are standing together near an aquarium. Ethan tells Caleb, "Take me there. I'll tell you everything." Hoping to finally learn the truth, Caleb takes Felix's car and drives Ethan to the aquarium park, which was Baron's favorite place. While they are there, Ethan explains that he used to collect coins because he believed they brought good luck. He would keep them hidden under his bed. One day, Lyle found them and assumed Ethan had stolen them. Because of that, he beat Ethan badly. Those beatings left the bruises Caleb had seen earlier. Ethan is still terrified of Lyle. He tells Caleb, "Take me far away from here. Otherwise, Lyle will kill me too." Then Ethan finally tells Caleb what happened. Baron knew that Lyle was mistreating him. Because of this, Lyle wanted to silence him. Through tears, Ethan tells Caleb that Lyle tied Baron to the railway tracks that day. Ethan says he tried desperately to save him, but he failed. Hearing this, Caleb breaks down. However, instead of blaming Ethan, he comforts him and promises to protect him. Afterward, Caleb takes Ethan to a hotel and calls Jackie. Jackie tells him to come back home, but Caleb explains that Ethan's life is in danger and that he needs his help. What Caleb doesn't know is that Detective Navarro and the police chief are sitting with Jackie and listening to the conversation. Caleb asks Jackie to meet him at a location the following morning. He also tells Ethan that he plans to send him across the border to stay with his aunt so he can remain safe. Before ending the call, Caleb sadly tells Jackie, "You and Baron deserved a better man than me." Jackie begins crying. At the same time, she tries to warn him not to come to the location he mentioned. Caleb immediately realizes that the police are listening to the call. Moments later, detectives trace Caleb's location and arrive at the hotel. Fortunately, Caleb notices them in time. He escapes with Ethan before the police can reach them and disappears into the night. During a heavy rainstorm, Caleb goes to Benji's house to ask for help. He has no idea that Benji is secretly working against him. Caleb asks Benji to help Ethan cross the border safely. At the same time, he begins thinking about taking revenge on Lyle. Later, Caleb tells Ethan that he will have to cross the border alone. Ethan refuses and asks Caleb to come with him. However, Caleb replies, "I'm not the kind of person you should spend the rest of your life following." At that moment, Benji's men arrive. Pretending that they are there to help Ethan escape, they suddenly attack Caleb and separate him from Ethan.
Just yet.
Benji is furious with Caleb because he ignored his instructions and ran away from Lyle, putting Benji's business deals at risk. Then Benji shows Caleb a police recording. "This is what you wanted to see, right?" he says. In the recording, Philip explains that he thought the boys were only playing. But when Baron tried to get up, Ethan knocked him unconscious and left him on the tracks in front of the train. After hearing this, Ethan apologizes to Caleb. Overcome with anger, Caleb rushes toward Ethan. However, Benji stops him and sends Ethan back to Lyle. Benji then tells Caleb never to show his face again and orders his men to beat him badly. The next day, Ethan wakes up and finds Lyle sitting beside him. Ethan is frightened, but Lyle once again pretends to be a caring father. He even uses Ethan's return as part of a publicity campaign to improve his public image. Meanwhile, Benji's men leave Caleb at a diner. Sitting alone in the restroom, Caleb breaks down in tears. He is torn between his desire to get justice for Baron and his wish to save Ethan from Lyle. Eventually, Caleb manages to escape and seeks help from Detective Navarro. After that, he heads to one of Lyle's campaign events. However, Benji spots him there and secretly warns Lyle. As a result, Lyle quickly leaves the event with Ethan. But just as he is about to board a ship with Ethan, Caleb catches up to them. Caleb tells Lyle, "I'm not here for you. I'm here for Ethan. Give him to me, and I won't say a word about you in front of the media." Wanting to protect himself, Lyle agrees and hands Ethan over to Caleb. Caleb gives Ethan a gun for protection. But suddenly, Lyle reveals his true intentions and tries to kill Ethan himself. At that moment, Detective Navarro comes out from hiding. It turns out that Caleb and Navarro had already planned this together in order to expose Lyle. Caleb tells Ethan, "You're safe now," and hugs him, forgiving him for everything that happened. However, Lyle suddenly opens fire. Detective Navarro immediately shoots back and kills Lyle. But before dying, Lyle manages to shoot Caleb. The bullet sends Caleb falling into the water. Without hesitation, Detective Navarro jumps in after him and pulls him to safety before he can drown. Sometime later, Caleb wakes up in a hospital. Detective Navarro is standing beside his bed. Caleb's first question is about Ethan. Then he asks, "Did Ethan tell you why he killed Baron?" Detective Navarro explains that Ethan confessed everything. According to Ethan, he became jealous of Baron because Baron constantly talked about how much he loved his father. Ethan grew angry because he never had that kind of relationship with Lyle. Eventually, that jealousy turned into hatred, and in a moment of anger, he caused Baron's death. Hearing the truth, Caleb starts crying. Sometime later, Caleb is arrested for his actions during the investigation. While being transported, he sees Ethan one last time. Neither of them says much as they look at each other. The police vehicle then continues down a deserted road. Suddenly, the car stops. Both officers get out and leave Caleb alone inside. Confused, Caleb looks around and notices two armed men approaching the vehicle. He quickly realizes that they have come to kill him. Accepting his fate, Caleb closes his eyes and prepares for death. In the next moment, he imagines seeing his son Baron smiling at him. With that emotional scene, the movie comes to an end. I hope you liked the story. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.